Okay, good morning. It is 10 a.m. It is Sunday, and that means it's time for Sunday Club, where every week we live stream some Ruby on Rails coding, and we build an app together. And the app is an app that goes, you sign up and you enter your YouTube or your Twitch channel. It goes and gets those videos, and it makes a little website for your channel. And that is what we've been doing over the last weeks and now months. We are well into this. I'm just going to check that my volume is coming through. It is good. Okay, great. So we're going to dive straight in this week because I don't have any follow-up. I didn't manage to do much to the work in progress branch or anything like that. I think there's a kind of failing test in the repo if anyone wants to go and take a look. You can take a look for the Sunday Club repo. I'll try and put the notes in the episode description afterwards. But if I forget, you can just Google Sunday Club GitHub and you will find it. So let's just dive straight into what we're going to do this week. We are going to take a look into Hotwire. And this is less on the moving the app forward side of things and more on the I'm interested in learning more about this. So I've kind of like overridden the kind of order of things to take a look at this. And if you want to go back and take a look at last week's stream, what we were doing to prepare for this, we basically did some planning where we were saying, well, we have an app that goes and imports a bunch of videos from a third party, a YouTube channel. So it has a feed of videos, list of videos. We import all those things. We now have two versions of that video and its title and its description. We have the one on YouTube and we have the one in our app. And what we want to be able to do is edit the one in our application, and so that we can write better descriptions or cooler titles or something like that. And then in future episodes, we're going to look at how we could kind of have version control and synchronization between the two, how we could maybe deal with updates coming from YouTube, because I think that idea of the interplay of how your app works with third-party apps is something that's really kind of not something you necessarily bump into on tutorials, but it's usually something you bump into at some point with a production app, which is hopefully what some of the stuff we cover on this channel is about. So Hotwire is something we're taking a little diversion to take a look at. We built out the editing functionality last week. Let's bring up some code instead of staring at my face. So this is our editor, and why have I got this open? Because I made a couple of edits which will fix some things that I bump into every week. I finally remembered to update the Ruby version file so that we won't then have to deal with always having the wrong Ruby version when navigating between folders in terminal, which I just remembered to do 10 minutes before this stream, which I normally forget. And also someone very kindly pointed out in one of the, I can't remember which stream it was, but they popped in the comments that we get some terminal errors because of a gem that doesn't get used if we're not on Windows anyway, and we don't use Windows for either development or for deployment. So I've removed that gem as well. I'm not sure 100% which errors they were, but we don't need the gem, so it can go. So I just did that quickly before this stream as well. So that's where we're up to. I've also done some work in progress commits for the commits we did from last week, which was getting the ability to edit videos in the control panel, which is what we're going to try and hotwire-ize. I don't know what that word is. Wire up. I guess we can try and wire up with Hotwire. And we also fixed a little issue that we had with the importer grabbing the wrong, or not grabbing videos that we wanted it to import. So that's all from last week. So I've got a server already running. So let's just see where we're up to with the app. So we can say test, we can call this one Hotwire test 1, and we can create a site. As usual, I need an ID and the nearest one to me, which I never remember to have on hand, but is probably our own channel. Let's go grab that, grab this ID, chuck that in there. So we're going to sign up. So we're going to have just some random information. But I do want that thing in case it makes me sign up again. Great. So now we have our site number 13, and we've got a little channel. We haven't got our job running, so I'll run that manually in a second to go and get our videos, but we should then be able to go into, oh, I think I remember this being the channel and not the site. So that probably won't work. And then you have to know what channel that is. Right, yeah, so if you're thinking, what the hell is this guy on about? I've already come in to look at the Hotwire stuff. All of this is on previous streams. It's basically just the structure of our work in progress app as it is. We create this model called a site. The site has many channels, but I don't yet have a UI that shows me which channels belong to which site. So we can do site.find 13, and we can say what channels does it have, and it has channel number 12. So we should be able to do this, I think. So control panel is our admin area. That's where we're going to administrate our videos and channels. And I've already literally just checked this channel for that. So it should be 12. Control panel channels 12. Is that not the right? Oh, was I? Oh, I see. So we create the account and then it doesn't sign me in, or is that the? Is this the grace thing that we have to keep doing in Devise, which is another one of the chores I still haven't done? It's like allow something. Again, I'm just brushing over all of this. This is all from previous streams. We want to. We haven't confirmed our user account, so it might not be letting us in. Let's see if it will let us in now. Oh, I have to restart the server as well. This is all just kind of admin stuff that I haven't tidied up. If you've clicked on this because it's got the word Hotwire in it and you're thinking, why hasn't this guy tidied any of this stuff up? That's pretty much a consistent theme of these streams, but I only really look at these on Sunday mornings, and if I get time during the week, I do them. So you'll have to just skip forward if you want to do that. So we have restart the server. Then we should. Great. Okay, so now we're in our control panel. You can tell that because the words control panel are in font 470 million, and there are no videos for this channel yet, which is great. We know why this is. It's because we run our video importer on a background job, which we haven't triggered because we just haven't got to there yet. So let's leave our console and we can do, I think it was, I remembered this last week. Is it work start? Rails, was it delayed job? Yeah, I think it was delayed job we had to do. I think it was like it was something start. That's for an individual one. It was right at the top, I think. Oh no, I found this so quickly in these docs the other day. Here we go, reg jobs work. We can just use that one. So this should run our importer. And I don't have my YouTube API key. So I think it was Justin that pointed out last week. We do need an API key for this to work for YouTube. Again, there's a previous stream where you can go and look at how to get that set up in your app using the YT gem. And that should 100% be stored in an environment variable so that it's not in the repo and all of those good security and good practice things. I haven't got around to that either. So as usual, I'm just going to go quickly reset a key and just pop it in the code base manually. So again, I have kind of spoken to a couple of people about this. I will put some maybe notes on the in the video descriptions or something. These streams are definitely not like tutorials or anything. It's not like do this, then do this, and I'm doing everything best practice. We're kind of just exploring together. Okay, so we've got a key there. Save that. Because these keys just then expire. So do that YT, so we can pop that key in there and then reset the server. Yeah, so I skip a lot of best practice stuff and a lot of just stuff that would take time that we don't really want to do on the stream. The stuff in the if you are interested in that, if this is the first time because you saw Hotwire in the video and are interested in that, if you, the repo itself in the pull requests, I do tend to be a bit more diligent in tidying things up before they make it into the repo itself. So what's this one I'm trying to fix? Sorry. So that stuff does tend to be a bit tidier. So all of the code here, I just put it in a current work in progress branch, and then gradually over time, when I do get some spare time, I've been putting it over into master. Right, so now we have our API key. Can we now run our jobs? I could have left that running actually. No, maybe it would have worked, I'm not sure. No, I think it probably wouldn't. Let's see what happens now. So this starting job work, should retry this job, I think. Yep, great. So have we imported some videos into our channel? Let's bring the chat up. There we go. So we can go over here. Yes, amazing. Look at all our cool videos. So this is our administration area. Again, there's no user interface design or anything on this. We're just spitting basically unformatted code out, but we're not too fussed about that. We're here more for the Rails than the design stuff. So this is the URL we're in is control panel, and that's our administration area. We're administrating channel 12, and this is all of the videos available on that. So what we can now do is click on edit. We now have a form where we can edit the title and the description for this. So this is going to be, let's say, new title, and we're going to update that video. And so there is our, there is our new title right there. Now, this is not then reflecting that change on YouTube or anything. This is just changing the app version of this video's metadata, the title and description and stuff. The version that's on YouTube is staying there. But what we want to do is see if when we click edit, can we use Hotwire in the half-watched tutorials that I have watched, which are now several weeks ago because I didn't do any during the week. Can we kind of like Hotwire up? I'm going to stick with that. Hotwire up this form to maybe appear inline here and to have all of this stuff swap out magically so that the editing experience maybe stays on this page for all of the videos. That could be pretty cool. And let's see what else we end up with for as kind of bonuses to take a look at that. So what we're going to do, sit.dev. Okay, cool. So I think, do we have to install Stimulus and this and Turbo separately? I think there's a gem where we don't. Turbo.hotwire.dev. So I think I remember seeing Rails gem. Okay, so I'm guessing that what this does is wraps up the installers. Do we already have Stimulus, actually? Because I can't remember what version of Rails. So we've got 603. We've got Turbolinks. Okay, so that then comes by default. So are we swapping Turbo for Turbolinks? I think Turbo is the new Turbolinks. Do we have to swap those out? These are all good questions that we want to answer. And then we have Webpacker, which then presumably gives us... if you're listening to me thinking, why is he saying presumably didn't he do this work? That was ages ago. Like I only do this once a week on this repo and I haven't used it like day job stuff. So like any code you write more than about 24 hours ago, it's gone from my mind. So we have... package.json. So we put Tailwind in. That came with post CSS, I think, as well. Turbolinks was possibly already in here. We don't have any Stimulus stuff in here, which I'm assuming this is where this would be. I've kind of read some Stimulus stuff, but I haven't really had a chance to use it. Okay, so we've got Tailwind. We've, I think, got all the kind of raw ingredients plus an existing Turbolinks installation. So if we go back in the web page for Hotwire, what I understand this to be is kind of 3 separate things that all play well together, but are not dependent on each other. And when I Googled around previously, that's my loopback thing coming off. When I Googled around previously, this gem essentially just seemed to handle... This gem installs both Turbo and Stimulus into your Rails application for use with ES6 and ESM in the browser. Okay, cool. So add Hotwire gem to your gem file, run bundle install, run bundle Hotwire install, and then you can go to the Turbo Rails gem docs and the Stimulus Rails gem docs. So I'm interested to jump over to the Turbo Rails one initially to see if it gives us anything specific about an existing Turbolinks implementation. Okay, so I'm guessing if you're probably watching this stream, you might already have an interest in any of this stuff. So I don't really want to dive too deep into why we are interested in any of this stuff. Like it like the behavior, the underlying behavior and things like that. Yep, that's all what it does. So this turbo... Oh, okay. So turbo drive, turbo frames, and turbo streams. I think this is worth us returning to after the installation is done. What I'm looking for specifically at the moment is whether we have to remove Turbolinks. Just literally looking through the docs. Or should we install it and see if... Oh, let's just Google it quickly. So Turbo Rails remove Turbolinks gem. Okay, I'm just going to make this specifically look for... Okay, so from Turbolinks to Turbo, here we go. This is the kind of thing I think we're looking for. I was eager to start using Hotwire in a project that I thought was a perfect fit. Okay, so Alessandro has doing the same thing that we're doing by the sounds of things. Remove Turbolinks, add Turbo. Turbo is basically the new version, so we need to remove... Okay, so we do. So he has got his Turbolinks via NPM, ours is via a gem, so presumably we can remove the gem. Turbo, this will replace the package with the new one. Turbo drive is that part of Turbo. Right, so Turbo drive is specifically the part of Turbo that replaces Turbolinks. Okay. The word Turbo didn't have a lot of meaning to me before this, and it's now already gibberish. We need to remove the previousness, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so are we doing anything JS side with that gem here? So what are we actually doing? Okay, we've got a question in the chat. What do you think about Webpack? I personally want to get rid of it and go back to the asset pipeline. DHH also explores that route for Rails 7. Don't have to run action text without it though. Yeah, we seem to be caught in a bit of a like halfway house at the moment. I don't really... because this is the only project I'm setting up from scratch at the moment, I don't really have a huge amount of influence. A lot of the time I have to deal with what's already there. So I don't think I have any particularly strong opinions yet as to what we should do moving forward, because I don't think it yet bumps into me because I'm not starting new projects. Yeah, I don't know. I think that having to run all the Webpacker stuff and well, just the Webpack stuff, like there are different options that you have. So I've done like Webpack without Webpacker on Rails and stuff like that for CI and things. Like you have to run all that stuff, whereas that kind of got handled by the asset pipeline. But it is access to a whole other ecosystem without having to go through some sort of translation layer, which I do quite like. And Webpack does seem to be that for JavaScript. But then if you're doing less stuff like in the front end, like if you're just not doing, like if you're not going to have 50,000 npm packages, you're just going to use Turbo, then who cares? I think I've managed to just talk myself around in a circle within 45 seconds there. So yeah, I don't think I have a particularly... It would be nice to have the option of using either or rather than having to use kind of both. I guess you can just use Webpack at the moment. Oh no, you're just saying not if you use Action Tech. How do you recommend getting to Hotwire for beginning intermediate programs that work on the first app? I'm going to parrot something that I heard DHH say on the one interview that told me to go and look at this, which was like build it like you would normally build it, which is what we did last week for this admin behavior. So this looks like a dog's dinner, but it totally works. Like we were able to edit it. Like this is nothing outside of Rails norms. So that is just a form. You edit it, you do all that stuff. Build it so it works first and don't worry about any of the Hotwire stuff. Then think, right, okay, I want to change this one behavior to be snazzy or live or something like that. And then I would look at doing that one if you're on that beginner intermediate journey. We're kind of contriving an example in this app because I'm interested in going and playing with it. But to be honest, the fact that the app works, and if you don't have any performance issues, like if you're working on a beginner intermediate app and you don't have lots of users and you haven't got performance issues, if you've got a good host and you've written your app well and your front end isn't too bloated or anything like that, the performance will be great. So you don't need to turboize it necessarily immediately, but if you're interested in learning that, then having a really good working experience and then making it even better, like that's a really good place to start. So yeah, build it without it first, get it all working, and then keep going. Because I think if you dive into everything we're about to, I think you're gonna start getting confused if you're not really like last week we did all the mechanics of like building a controller and having the edit action and the update action and all of that stuff. Like that's like I often just hand wave that on these streams because these aren't necessarily for if you're on your first tutorials. So I often hand wave. It's like, yeah, but of course we're going to need an update action, and then we're going to need a form to edit it. Oh, yeah, well there needs to be a button and that post somewhere. Blah 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 blah. Like if you're not there yet, Hotwire might melt your mind because you have to do all of that, but then you're not actually. You're still Hotwire. The way I understand it is basically doing that response for you, but then parsing the response that comes back and just replacing the bit of DOM that you care about. That would have fried my brain, I think, if I was learning this stuff now. I don't know, but people are way smarter than me in 99.5% of cases, 0.9. So maybe they could just dive in. Okay, so this is what I'm looking for here specifically is what should we be pulling out if we're about to remove the Turbolinks gem and replace it with Turbo Drive. So I'm looking like we do have a specific line that kicks it all off in our application.js. We do have a specific file. No, that's just our application.js, but it has. So is all of this stuff compatible with Turbo Drive? Like, is that? That's just telling giving Turbolinks the behavior for this file when it does its fancy reload stuff. But is that how Turbolinks as well? Is it kept backwards compatibility? But go back to that blog post, and Alessandro said he had removed it, so he swapped that. So import that, replace all Turbolinks code. I should have read more on this blog post. The event Turbolinks load is now called Turbo Load. Replace them wherever you are using them. If you're using Turbo data Turbolinks attributes, I've got data Turbo. Okay, that's not too bad. That's all that stuff. Can you explain a bit of an overview of what feature you're implementing and how Hotwire Rails? Yeah, so the feature, I mean, is an existing feature. This is just answering Justin's question. If you can't see the chat, can you explain a bit of an overview of what feature you are implementing and how Hotwire fits into it? So the feature already exists in the behavior. So we're just going to introduce a change to it. So when you edit a video in this control panel area, at the moment, you we have an index page. It's ugly, but it's an index page which shows you each video for this channel. So those are the model names. You have a channel and it has many videos. When you click edit, you currently go to the edit view of this video. So within the control panel. So that's control panel, videos, 120, edit. And then we make our change. And then when we hit update, it's going to go to the update action here. And then it's going to bring us back to the channel's index view, but it has updated our value. What Hotwire is going to allow us to do is, I think, basically change the user experience of that feature. So the behavior won't change in terms of the actual app. You'll still be able to edit a title. But when you click edit, instead of being taken to the edit view and changing and having to do a full view reload and doing all of that stuff, because this page could have, we've got no other content on here, but it could have other stuff on it. What we're going to do is get that form to appear in this index view. And we're going to swap out all of this content or append it or whatever we're going to do. And then we can do the edit here, click update, which will also have to appear here. And then when we do that, that's then going to swap out again. And this will show as updated, but it all will have happened server side. So we could do that with React, for example. We could click edit and that would get swapped out and the component would know that we'd gone into edit mode or however you wanted to do it. And it would swap that out. But everything that Hotwire is going to allow us to do is do that server side. So we had a form partial, for example, when we click edit, this is a partial here. This is the partial we're going to try and get to show here. And like we're not going to have to write any JavaScript to make this happen, I don't think. So that's hopefully an explanation as to what we're trying to implement. Turbo Rails gem has the docs. Turbo Rails gem. Oh, so it has the docs for removing itself. I think we can kind of like, if you've seen any of these other streams, I usually take blog posts at pretty much face value and just smash into them head first. So I'm kind of into this idea. Let's, no, I'm going to be really diligent. I'm going to follow your advice. So Turbo Rails gem has the docs. So does this have like a removing section or something? Oh, wait, Turbo Rails. Oh, okay. Rather than Turbolinks. Okay, fine. Does this has the documentation to remove the existing ones as well? To remove the Turbolinks gem? Okay. Let's see if we can pull that out and get our behavior. So let's do that. What did he remove? He removed the gem, so we can remove the... Well, this can all just go. So that can go... I'm just going to remove this first, because I think the idea would be that Turbolinks is like a layer on top, right? So removing the gem... Okay, well, that's all just stuff we're doing... No, we don't really care about that. Okay, so I'm just going to commit these as I go because I want to be able to rewind myself a little more easily than we usually do. So this is remove Turbolinks gem. Okay, and then we're going to... so we're going to... I'm just going to go through these places where we found it. They're still... there. Is that because... oh, they're not there. I have to rerun this search. Yep, cool. So we can remove it from here as well. I think we're using yarn on this one. Cool. So that should have changes as well. So yarn. And that is remove Turbolinks npm package. Sorry. And do that one. And then we run our search again. I'm just going through references as to where this code lives, because it's just here because we've done a default Rails installation. So we then don't need this. We then presumably don't need this. or this, and we can add those back in for turbo specifically. And we don't need this. That we don't really care about that actually. That's from devise, the default one. That can stick around. Right, why is this still here in here? Probably because it depends on something depends on it. Okay, we can stay. We don't really care too much about that either. So what's in here? So we can just put remove. What's it doing there? Is it initializing it? And JS stuff. I don't really care about what that is right now. Okay, so I think by removing all that stuff, if we just restart our server, we should just go back to our normal behavior, right? We just strip that out, and if everything still just works, these are now just normal page reloads rather than Turbolinks ones. Okay, everything's gone real slow for a second. Oh, okay, Webpack is doing its thing. Great. Okay, so this should now still be add 5 on the end, hit update video. Okay, we have broken some stuff. Is that because this was data remote true? And that's now broken by... Okay, so I wonder if Turbolinks was handling that. So do we need to go to our... I think it's a video here. So remote true is probably the new default. I think we bumped into this. So if we do remote false... Oh, that is doing something. So it's disabling it and coming back. What's actually happening there? Just want to check what I've broken by removing Turbolinks before we jump straight into... So the RxHR requests. They are XHR requests going across. Updated video successfully. Okay. But it's not doing the redirect because it is still an XHR request rather than just data remote true. Okay. Oh, does that need to be like this? Cool. Okay. So this is now old school, normal, traditional. That's a non-remote form. I think we probably do want it to be remote when so we can just take all these numbers off. We can click and it goes back. Okay, great. So we've removed Turbolinks. And as long as the form is not set to be remote, so remote being that it's sending an XHR request rather than just posting the whole. What's the standard name for that? Like just sending the page. I can't remember the wording. Okay, so that's cool. I think we've removed all of Turbolinks, which we hadn't done anything with. That was just the default behavior. So we're not going to have to worry about the replacing. We can just go from scratch. Cool. Okay, so let's just use... do we think this is going to be maintained, or do we want to install these separately? It doesn't seem like... a huge amount of work to... Yeah, I think it's... I wonder if Turbo does Hotwire install just do the two? Yes. Okay. So let's install these separately. So we don't really need to to bother with this gem, because then we can follow the kind of progress and versions of these gems if we have any problems in the future. So we can install, let's do Turbo first. So we're going to add it to our gem file. We are then going to do bundle install. And then we're going to run whatever the command it just gave us was bin Rails turbo install. Cool. Cool. So I'm just going to commit all of the default stuff. We're not going to worry too much about what's happening here. So I'm going to leave. Okay, so we've got turbo, include tags, and yield head. Okay. Just gonna add all this stuff. So cable.yml has changed. So that is now looking for a Redis instance locally. Okay. I don't have a Redis instance locally, so let's see what that does. Wait, does it come with one? Well, that would be cool. Okay, so let's just commit this. So install. So Justin is asking, are there any fundamental differences as to why you are choosing Hotwire instead of Stimulus Reflex? Nope, it is purely curiosity and timing. So I was going to check out Stimulus Reflex as well. But Hotwire coming along just as we'd reached a part of the app that was kind of neatly had a bit of behavior we could change means looking at this, I'm happy to go and take a look at Stimulus Reflex as well. I have to say I'm not really... I've read the docs and stuff for Stimulus, but I'm not really in that world yet. So both of them are totally blank pages in my mind, much like many of the things in my mind. So install... I've already forgotten which one we're doing. Install turbo. Oh, it installs the Reddit gem as well. That's interesting. Oh no. Wait, what? That's cool. I didn't uncomment that. Did it find it and then uncomment it in the installer? Ooh, cool. Okay. Did I do that? No, look. Oh, that's cool. Okay. Install turbo-rails gem. I'm just going to leave a note for myself. This is all the default stuff that happens when you run the install script. Okay, cool. That's happened there. That one's done. We're going to do both. Let's not dive into one. We're going to do both because if we'd have used the Hotwire Rails gem, we'd have got them both as well. So we're going to do Stimulus Rails as well. So we're going to add the Stimulus Rails gem to a gem file. Cool. Bundle install. And then bin Rails Stimulus installs. This is going to do the same thing, and we're going to commit the same thing. We're just going to commit whatever it does. Going to let it go wild. Oh, loads of stuff. Okay. So we get this kind of like hello controller. I think is like the default test controller. Not sure what import map does. Libraries. And there, okay. So that adds it to the asset pipeline. Add stimulus includes the application layout. Turn off development debug mode. Turn off Rack Mini profile. Okay, I'm interested. We tried using this before, this GitHub app, just to kind of visualize those changes. I'm interested in what's in them, and here we go, because we can change the font size on this. That's cool. I can go again. Okay, cool. So what have we actually got in here that's new? Okay, so it's added, I think, true JavaScript. So I think I'm looking at the question similar to the question that was asked earlier, which is like, okay, can I close that? Oh, for God's sake. Sorry, it's just updating that little app. I use source tree a lot, but it won't let me change the font size, which is not good for the stream. So I've just got the GitHub app just to take a look at Git diffs, so we can zoom in on them. The Turbo gem installs everything you need. Also, Turbo installed Stimulus for us as well. So I should have read the docs on this. Oh, you mean it installs everything we need from the point of view of the behavior we're trying to do, so it does all the Turbo frame stuff? Like we don't need a stimulus controller to do it. Is that what you mean? So the GitHub app has not come back to life. Okay, cool. There we go. Okay, so that is putting that in the asset pipeline stuff. Okay. So do we not end up with anything in like package.json or anything like that? So stimulus.js by default comes via the asset pipeline rather than via Webpacker. Is that the case? So I don't think I had an asset JavaScript because everything had gone into app JavaScripts. So we've got app. So everything in here is Webpack stuff, Webpacker stuff. To go through there, I think that's just Tailwindy stuff at the moment. Yeah, I think. And so now we have assets JavaScript. So this is JavaScript going back via the asset pipeline. As far as I understand, Turbo replaces Turbolinks. Yeah, okay. So I think, yes, that's my understanding as well. I'm kind of putting Stimulus in because it's part of Hotwire. So maybe we don't need it at all. I'm also interested, like, that it comes in here by default. Like, presumably I could have installed it via adding it to my little package.json file, but I still have needed these. I guess not. Let's not worry about any of that stuff. Let's just commit it and get our functionality up and running. Let's go and do some stuff with all of this. Where is it gone? Okay, cool. Oh, we can do it in here, can't we? We don't want that one, and we don't need that one for now. So everything else, stimulus include tags, okay. Oh, am I the only person? Like, we really do feel like we're in a halfway house between the asset pipeline and Webpacker then. Okay, maybe that's just me. Might not be understanding what's happening. Okay, so let's install whatever it was, stimulus Rails. So stimulus Rails gem, and then this is all the stuff that came with the default installation script. Cool. Then we've got our 3 changes there that we don't really care about too much. Okay, so let's go take a look in here. Okay, so I think, so Chris is right. I think that Turbo Gem is the one that we really care around. So that wants to give us our behavior from the feature we described earlier. So Turbo gives you, hang on, let me bump this font up. Turbo gives you the speed of a single page web application without having to write any JavaScript. Turbo accelerates links and form submissions without requiring you to change your server-side generated HTML. lets you carve up a page into independent frames, which can be lazy loaded and operate as independent components. And finally helps you make partial page updates using just HTML and a set of CRUD-like container tags. That all sounds good. That's what we're trying to do. These three techniques reduce the amount of custom JavaScript that many web applications need to write by an order of magnitude. And for the few dynamic bits that are left, you're invited to finish the job with Stimulus. Cool. So now we've got everything installed. We are ready to go. On top of accelerating web applications, Turbo was built from the ground up to form the foundation of hybrid native applications. Going to skip all of that because I don't have any of that stuff for work going. So Turbo is a language agnostic framework written in TypeScript, but this gem builds on top of those basics to make the integration with Rails as smooth as possible. You can deliver Turbo updates via model callbacks over action cable, respond to controller actions with native navigation or standard redirects, and render Turbo frames with helpers and layout-free responses. Turbo is a Turbo Drive. Turbo is a continuation of the ideas from the previous Turbolinks framework, and the heart of that past approach lives on as Turbo Drive. Install Turbo automatically intercepts all clicks on href links to the same domain. When you click an eligible link, Turbo prevents the browser from following it. Instead, Turbo changes the view. So this is what Turbolinks used to do. Okay, fine. So now that we've installed this, as usual, just diverting immediately from the docs and doing any kind of due diligence, if I run my server, I can't remember what that actually installed. Is that already overtaken it? Is that now happening, or do we have to do work to make that happen? If you're using Webpack, you need to either use... Okay. No, I think we have to do something, perhaps. Running Tip will install through npm if Webpacker is installed in the application. Otherwise... Oh, okay, right, okay. So running turbo install will... Oh, hang on, I'm jumping ahead. Okay, I was just trying to answer that question in my mind first. Let's not dive in. During rendering, Turbo replaces the current body element outright and merges the so this is all the old Turbolink stuff. Merges the contents of the head element, JavaScript window and document subject and the HTML. Switch from rendering to the next. Okay, yep, that was all. If this isn't making any sense, then kind of going back and looking at what Turbolinks did is probably a good place to start. Whereas Turbolinks previously just dealt with links, Turbo can now also process form submissions and responses. This means the entire flow in the web application is wrapped into Turbo, making all the parts fast. No more need for data remote true. Right, okay, so data remote true was telling the form specifically that it was to submit an XHR request, whereas I think what this is saying is if everything's going through Turbo and it catches, it's catching everything, then don't worry about it. Just assume everything's going through Turbo. Turbo reinvents the old HTML techniques of frames without any of the drawbacks that led to developers abandoning it. With Turbo frames, you can treat a subset of the page as its own component, where links and form submissions replace only that part. So again, going back to where we were looking at doing, I think when we click edit, we only want that part of the page swapped out with the form. Can't remember which one I was on. Replace only that part. This removes an entire class of problems around partial interactivity that before would have required custom JavaScript. It also makes it dead easy, nice, to carve a single page into smaller pieces that can all live on their own cache timeline. While the bulk of the page might easily be cached between users, a small personalized toolbar perhaps cannot. With Turbo frames, you can designate the toolbar as a frame, okay, which will be lazy loaded automatically by the publicly cached root page. Okay, this means simpler pages, easier caching schemes with fewer dependent keys, and all without needing to write a lick of custom JavaScript. Dead easy and a lick. Okay, yeah, that's all kind of making sense so far. Like I have a mental model of what that looks like. Like I guess a page covered in squares that are each independent frames, like little mini iframes, I guess. And then this one can do stuff and this one doesn't care because although technically it might be going and getting, doing stuff, clicking links and stuff, the Turbo itself is dealing with the response coming back and only swapping out that part of the page. Okay. But I'm assuming, but I might be something saying way off the base, way off base now, that essentially that's kind of the similar to the React idea of, well, the whole giant stack of components are there, but only this one has changed. So we're going to do a diff, and we're going to do our Reacty magic thing of working out what that diff looks like, and then we're going to change the DOM ourselves. React is going to do that for you, and we're only going to swap out this part. Only this is more at a more like fundamental level, because you've gone and actually made the request and got the response back, rather than just doing it all in. I mean, that could have happened in React as well, but I didn't describe that very well at all. Partial page updates that are delivered asynchronously over a WebSocket connection is the hallmark of modern reactive web applications. With Turbo Streams, you can get all of that modern goodness using the existing server-side HTML you're already rendering to deliver the first page load. With a set of simple CRUD container tags, you can send HTML fragments over the WebSocket or in response to direct interactions and see the page change in response to new data. Right, so is this the idea where we then don't need to have the user click a button to do something like update a count or a total or something? Again, no need to construct an entirely separate API, no need to wrangle JSON, no need to re-implement the HTML construction in JavaScript. Take the HTML you're already making, wrap it in an update tag, and voila, your page comes alive. So my understanding, okay, let's do the last part. With this Rails integration, you can create these asynchronous updates directly in response to your model changes. Turbo uses active jobs to provide asynchronous partial rendering and action cable to deliver those updates to subscribers. Okay, so I think this is beyond what we're doing in this feature that we're looking at today. I think we're looking at the Turbo frame stuff. I think the Turbo stream stuff would be really interesting though. We'll come up with a use case for it later. And my understanding of that is basically something is going to happen somewhere, but like presumably a model gets updated or something happens. There is something on the server side then says, hey, this thing has happened. So like a count has incremented or something like that has happened. It pings the open connection for like the WebSocket. What are they, like the action action cable, and says update this. And so the number goes up, but we haven't had to then poll, like do a long poll or anything like that. And so, and again, I'm assuming only the CRUD container tag gets updated. So it sends an HTML fragment. So presumably it just swaps out that fragment. So you could have a fragment, I guess, that's just the badge, I don't know, or the logo, like an icon with a badge on it. And then you could just send that with a different number up. I'm making random guesses here. I'm assuming that Turbo Rails. And ours, this app is bonkers. Okay. Sorry, let me just move some stuff over. So Turbo include tags. Okay. But it didn't add. So Turbo include tags should do everything we need. So if we, I think we should restart our server recently. So if we go in here and we start, so is, and let me just bump the size up on the thing here as well. So it's visible. So when I click on like the edit button here. Okay, I think we're working. That's, I think we're just, okay, so you can kind of see, I think, what's happening here. So the initiator of the request that we just made was Turbo, and then the big fingerprint thingy. That took over us clicking our link, which is what Turbolinks was doing previously, and said, cool, I'll go get the next page, which is this edit page. I will then bring that back, and I will swap this out. So it's decided what to swap out. So it hasn't had to go and reload the entire page, just the bit that we care about. And then I think if we do this, oh, well, I wonder if we can now remove the data thing from our form. Let's do that and see if we can get this all working at the same time. This is what we had to change earlier. And I'm sorry. I think, can we now pull all this out together? So what we're saying is Turbo just makes all that go away. So I can then save this. Okay, the chat's going crazy. Let me just do this before I come back to the chat. Bear with me just a second. So I can kill this. Okay, so we can go back to where we were. Server's running. Refresh this once the server comes back. It's taking its time. Okay, I think I zoomed out there. On this, sorry about that. Oh, is that? Oh, okay. I had just zoomed in a bunch. Okay, that's actually at Command 0, so that's actually the correct size. Okay, well, I could do. So I can click Edit here. Again, we saw earlier. Let's clear it. This is now being handled by Turbo. So now if we do 1, 2, 3, let's clear these requests again and do the update. Is this going to work? Right, so it now does send that via XHR, but we're not being redirected back. Are we being redirected back in the controller? Are we actually telling anything to happen there? What is that? That is the videos controller. See what behavior we actually expect. Control panel videos, update videos successfully, control panel. So we are sending a redirect back, I think. Control panel channel path, video dot channel. Yeah, so that's to the channel show view. Oh, sorry, earlier I called that the index view. It's the show view. And we're just listing those out. Okay, so I think we are making the request successfully. And the page comes back because we've got this, but that's not yet being swapped out. So we've got it there. But for some reason that's not happening. Okay, well we can fix that. So, okay. Sorry, so TMT, you add in Webpacker because it works at WebSockets. On the Webpacker because it works on WebSockets. Okay, so quite that's referring to, so I'm guessing that's in. So this one. So the Turbo route said it would work in Webpacker or in the asset pipeline, depending on which one was available, but it seems to be working, so we're not too fussed about that. Cool. Okay, so everything seems to be running. So we do, like, Turbo has taken over our links. It's not doing our form submission, but let's not get too. So we're in here. Let's bump this font size back up. Sorry about that. Okay, so if you're using Webpack and need to use either the cable consumer or the Turbo instance, you can import Turbo and or cable from that, but ensure your application actually uses the members it imports when using this style. If you're using a native adapter, oh right, okay, so that's for like iOS and stuff, you'll need to assign window.turbo even if it's not used for anything else. You can watch the video introduction to Hotwire, which focuses extensively on demonstration Turbo and Rails demo. I have watched that, but there's a lot in it, and then you should familiarize. There's a lot in it, and I was only kind of watching it on my phone. Then you should familiarize yourself with Turbo Handbook to understand drives, frame, streams in depth. Finally, dive into the code documentation, starting with Turbo Frames Helper, Turbo Streams Helper, Turbo Streams Tag Builder, Turbo Broadcastable Core. Yes, it will work with both, but better to move it to Webpacker. Also, when you added Tailwind before much code. Oh, you're going along with. Okay, cool. You should have moved completely from the asset pipeline. But someone asked the question earlier. There's like a push back to the asset pipeline now. In Rails 6, it's much better to keep everything flowing together via Webpacker. Yeah. So, who was it asking earlier in the chat? There's like move to get Tailwind back into the asset pipeline at the moment. And things like that. It's much for everything flowing Webpacker. Yeah, I have to say, I think you're right. I think one or the other. But then when I've just installed Stimulus, it's chucked it just in. Oh, so is what you're saying? It chucked it in the asset pipeline, like it gave me assets JavaScript back again, and put this in for Stimulus. Are you saying it like don't do it via the gem, just install it via npm and just like skip the gem altogether? So that you keep everything in Webpacker. Webpack. God. There's too many words. Okay. I'm gonna try and keep that conversation rolling on, but I'm gonna try and keep us. I'm gonna take a look into Turbo. Oh my God, there's so many words. Really, like from some of the streams we've done previously, I think we're being very diligent with actually following along the docs, because in the past we have just frankly thrown the docs out on like the third line, and it hasn't ended well. Okay, I realize I'm saying that while I'm skipping on. This basically is just an intro that says everything the other one said anyway. What we want to know is how do we get us when we click edit, we swap that format. That's really what we want to get to. Cool stuff that happens. Again, I reiterate, these are not tutorials. This is not the most diligent way to do things. So I'm skimming these. Okay. This is all just describing behavior. I'm hoping I'm skimming this quickly. That's all describing behavior. So here we go. There's actual code here. Most web applications present pages for a discussion page you might navigate. Yep. Okay, cool. These are... Yes, okay. With Turbo Frames, you can place those independent segments inside frame elements that scope their navigation and be lazy loaded. Scope navigation means all interactions within a frame, like clicking links or submitting forms, happens within that frame. We're just going to click a link to start with, keeping the rest of the page from changing or reloading. To wrap an independent segment in its own navigation context, enclose it in a Turbo Frame tag. For example, when you submit the form above, Turbo extracts the matching Turbo Frame ID new message elements from the redirected HTML response and swaps its content into the existing. Turbo extracts the matching Turbo Frame ID new message element from the redirected. Okay, so they have to match up. Okay, fine. The rest of the page stays just as it was. Oh my God, can we just give that a try? Like, I know we should be diligent and read the rest, but can we just, it would be so cool to make that work. Frames can also be lazy loaded from their contents in addition to lazy load at a source attribute. Okay. So the way I'm reading that is that if we were to wrap, because we think something in Turbo is working. If we were to wrap, to go back a step, if we were to wrap this in a Turbo Frame element and with an ID of like video 1 or whatever the ID is, then we were to wrap our partial that comes back in a Turbo Frame thing, and again import the ID, use the ID in the ID, use the ID of the video in the ID of the frame. Come on, Max. Then that should just swap out. That should suddenly happen by magic. If we can just achieve that on the stream, I'll be super happy. Like, everything we get from there is just a bonus. Just doing cool stuff without JavaScript is really, really why we're all here. I mean, come on, let's be honest with ourselves. Come on. Right. I don't know if that's going to work, but let's just try it, because you can all follow along very diligently in your own time and go through the docs and be far more professional about this whole thing. All right, let's give that a try. Someone post in the chat if you don't think that's going to work, for a very obvious reason that I don't understand. So we are in control panel. We are in channel show. It's not the index view. And we loop over the video partial. Okay, so I think we can put the video partial can have a frame in it. Okay, choose one. That's use Webpacker from the start. Okay, so the TMT is carrying on the Webpacker asset pipeline conversation in the chat. Someone asked earlier what my opinion. I'm not sure I really have a strong opinion. What I do know is how confusing that must be for people new to a framework to have these kind of. And I totally understand why and how. Well, I don't know about I totally understand, but I have a notion of the how and why we have these two things happening, or options available, and they can do things the other can do, and they have different behaviors. But holy heck, that must be confusing to a new. Like not even just a learner, but like if you're returning to Rails or something like that. Like, but then I don't know. I've used a lot of the JavaScript ecosystem ones, and they are no less confusing. So maybe it's just the cost of doing business. Maybe that's just cynical. Right. Okay. Right. Okay. So thank you so much for carrying that conversation. I do think it's useful. I'm being flippant, but I actually I do think that it's a really useful conversation to have for learners. But it's just merely less exciting than the getting a fancy frame to appear. Okay, so this is the tag around the video. So we have its ID. So does that already know what to spit out? So if I refresh this, do we then have something in the DOM? Oh, okay. So it actually appears as turbo. Oh, okay. Hang on a second. That is not. Oh, sorry. I don't need that. I don't need that. Okay. So this is the turbo frame wraps. Oh, you can't see it. Okay, so it doesn't create a frame. Fine. But it wraps this bit here. Does it wrap the edit button as well? Okay, I've meant it to wrap the edit button. I assume that's correct. So then I think what could happen is if in the form where you update it, we could do the same thing. And again, kind of have tag around that. Okay, if this works out the box, I'll be super happy. Okay, it didn't. It did something though. Oh my god, something totally happened. That alone is pretty exciting. Something totally happened. It goes busy. Okay, this is exciting. I'm just gonna check I didn't do any. It's not video, it's at video because we have an instance there. That can't be right. Ah, does this partial need an instance rather than being passed a video? Right, have I just used a partial on a page that I expect this instance to be available? Can I just set this to video and video? And then how does it know what that is? It's still going via the controller though. So what about if I do that? Like the response that comes back has still got the instance, right? Like it's still going to the edit method, or is it calling this partial directly? You can pass it into the partial. Do I need to? Can I just refresh this? Does this work? I reset that. Oh my god, it worked. That's the magic. So self-censoring. Wait, so can I then do the rest? Oh, okay. I'm kind of sold on this just from, I know it's ugly as hell. Right, let's read, like, right, this is working, but let's just recap what actually happened there, because we've only actually added 4 lines of code and totally got some new behavior. Oh, kind of can see why this is pretty cool, actually. Okay, so let's go back a step, right? Let's refresh this. So what we did is we installed Turbo. It's literally Rails magic. Usually a negative thing when you're describing something that you're not sure why it's happened. But this is the back in the beginning, intermediate, learning phases when it's actually really useful, or at least cool before you've tripped you up. All right, so we so we can ignore, I think, a little bit the stimulus stuff we installed. So Hotwire has stimulus and turbo in it. That's great. We kind of, I think, can ignore the stimulus stuff. What we're using here, as I understand it, is the turbo Rails stuff, which is, as was mentioned in the chat, the replacement for Turbolinks. And we are, if you imagine, can I actually just, do these frames, do they allow us to have like, no, you can't actually style them by the looks of things. Okay, well, let's not worry too much about. Okay, you have to kind of imagine. I can't draw a box around it very easily, but what we've done is we've basically, on our show view, we have a list of videos. So if you remember, the relationship is channels has many videos. So on our show view, for our channel, we've got a loop, and what it does is it loops over each video within that channel, and it says, right, for each of these ones, please render this video. And someone pointed out you can just do render videos. That would work as render app videos should work as well. I think someone pointed that out last week. But we've got a nice like obvious loop here, and we can do other fancy stuff in here. Presumably we could render that frame in here. So this goes and looks up a partial. That's more Rails magic. Like the fact that you can just do render video. Rails is then saying, right, well, I know it's called video. Is there a folder called videos that has a partial called video? And there's a bunch of other stuff. Again, that we kind of covered some of that stuff last week. So in the actual thing that gets rendered on the screen, we had previously this line here, and that spat out, rendered the thumbnail, the title and the description and the edit button. And the edit button is a link to the edit page. And that was the behavior we saw at the start of this stream. So I clicked on it, I would go to the other page. It would take me to the edit view. And in the edit view, we would render. We can then go and look at what the edit view does. It renders the form partial. That's all that view is doing. It actually adds a little title at the top, but we don't really care. And that all works using mainly these two partials. So what Turbo is allowing us to do is say, right, when we render each video, wrap an element, this turbo frame. This comes specifically from that gem that we've just installed, this turbo frame. And it needs an ID. It needs to know, in the same way like a React component, if you use that at all, like I need to know what I reference. So it needs an ID, and we've called it video because that's the model that we're working with. And then we've tagged the ID on the end. If we took this off the ID, Turbolinks would either not work or get confused. I'm actually not sure what would happen then. Let's give that a try. So we don't put the ID in, and we give them all the same ID. So now we can see like div ID, video, 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 video. So now if we hit the edit button, nothing happens, because it doesn't know which one to change. So by giving it this ID, it's saying, right, I'm video, you saw earlier, 120 or whatever it is. Just going to refresh this so that still works. Great. So it's saying, right, I'm video 120. When we then click on the edit link, which is still just a link, it's still not doing anything. I think the convention is to use DOM ID. I've totally seen that in that tutorial I just watched. So Chris, I'm going to come back and swap that out in a second. I'm going to carry on, but I think you're 100% right. So when we click the edit button, we're not doing what React does, which is where we have, or what is an option in React, is where you have an edit button that suddenly changes the behavior to do JavaScript stuff. So it would change like the state, for example, of a component, and then based on that state, it would re-render the DOM, but we haven't actually done anything on the server side. This link, this edit button here, as I understand it, is still doing the same job it was doing before. It's going to the server and saying, hello, I'd like the edit view, please. And I would like the whole thing back. And it is bringing the whole thing back. So we can then see that in our network tab. So let's clear out our network tab. I'm hoping, I'm going to bump the font size up again, but I'm hoping it's visible. Okay, I clicked Command plus and everything got smaller. I'm not sure what happened there. Okay, so I don't really want it by name, but it doesn't matter. So when we click edit here, we should be able to see that what's actually happening is it's saying, right, go and get me all of the edit page. And if we click on edit and look at the actual thing, we got the, okay. So we get back this editing video dash 11, hash 119. What is that? That is here at the top of the edit view, we have editing video hash, 119. That isn't then represented on this screen anywhere. I forgot my 119 is, probably this one. Because what it then does is it looks, this is Turbo doing this, it looks for the Turbo frame with the corresponding ID and says, right, I only care in the page you've just linked to, you've clicked on, I only care about the bit within this Turbo frame, and the ID matches an ID that I already have. So instead of reloading the page, I'm going to swap out the HTML that existed with the HTML that has just come back, and this can contain a form. Right, now, so it swaps it out. Now what I'm going to say is, does this work? Because it didn't work on the actual edit view, but this will be super magic if it works. So we've got new title. So can we do like Hotwire title question mark? Do update video. Oh my god, that totally just worked again. Okay, so yeah, I'm pretty sold on this. Okay, so what happened then? That I actually do want to look at the server responses for that. Actually, I do care about that. Great. Okay, so that's come back. Okay, so now we have a form that has been swapped out because of those two, that frame looking at that ID. Now, if you remember earlier on the Turbolinks side of things, it said Turbolinks only used to handle links, and what Turbo said is, no, I now handle form responses as well. So I've got you, so you can chuck like behavior in here and I will still work. So we've got our form in our partial that has been swapped out by Turbo. And when we then submit that, it does what a form normally does. It says, hello, I would like to go to the update action, or wherever you're sending it, post, create, or whatever you're doing, whatever it's doing. Hello, I would like to go and do my normal behavior, please. Turbo is catching that behavior and saying, great, look at the response that comes back. So if it works successfully, great, I've got a successful response. It's then looking in the response, is there a corresponding, what's it called? I've already forgotten, Turbolink dash frame. Is there a corresponding Turbo dash frame? And if there is, I'm only going to swap that bit back out. Now, if we redirected somewhere else, so let's say I redirected in that controller. This is exciting. Here, I've already forgotten where the hell we are. Control panel, videos controller, here. So here, if we comment that out for a second and instead redirect to I don't know, like root path. Yeah, I don't know, it doesn't matter where. So now if we hit edit, swap this out, and then do test on the end and click update video. Ooh, okay, that's interesting. So I was wondering if it would still react to redirect to, because it wouldn't. So it hasn't. So we've got new. Let's just kill this again. Okay, so I was wondering if it was swapping out successfully when it redirected to one with a turbo frame in. So if we do this one, adding Ruby on Rails, so we can put test at the start of that. So that's bringing back our edit view. Let's again clear the log, add test at the start and see what happens. Oh, did we get a updated video successfully? Redirected root path. Sunday Club homepage. Okay, so we do get the homepage back as the response. We do get the homepage back as the response. I think it breaks because it doesn't have the DOM ID to... Oh, do we need that DOM ID part there to replace the... Ah, okay, right. So if we swap here, so this becomes... I don't know, I'm going to have to go and look this up. Is it just DOM ID video? Okay. Is that right? Okay, I'm just going to go with that until someone takes a look. And then in here, yes, it needs DOM ID as you redirect to other page. DOM needs to be updated on WebSockets on the exact page. Okay, amazing. You guys are stars. Okay, so then I'm assuming that one's an instance. Got that. The root path doesn't have the ID. Okay, so I had assumed that because it doesn't have the ID, it might just send you there by default. Like it might just do a full redirect anyway. Okay, fair enough. So we think that this may work. So if we just refresh this page, yeah, we can just reload it. So now let's see if this takes away. So we can just change this one, chuck the word test in front, clear this out. Okay, am I still getting, so what do I actually have? Did I do the DOM ID part correctly? Because I could easily have screwed that up. Video 117 is there. And video 118. So it is doing the update, but not doing the redirect. Redirect path. That's working. That's working. So it's working correctly apart from the redirect afterwards. So again, it's a bit of a stupid example because you probably wouldn't send to the homepage, but I'm just interested in like, this is all working without reading any of the docs as usual. Okay, so I'm just skipping through to see if there is... Oh, I don't suppose there's anything with me having not swapped out like Rails UJS or anything, is there? Just seeing acronyms made me think of that. No, I don't mean it. Oh, to replace the form with the index. The index partial would need to contain a frame with the video 117 for it to replace the form with the index. So the index partial being this one. So I'm just going to the chat. The index partial would need to contain a frame with the ID video for it to replace the form with the index. Okay, you've lost me slightly on that one. I was kind of wondering if it would just, if you could just send someone somewhere else altogether, but I presume I could just take the, like if I wanted to swap, again, I don't really know why I would want to do this, but if I wanted to swap out this kind of like the partial that shows the video, then the partial that edits the video, if I want to change that behavior to not replace it at all and just send me somewhere else, Turbo is expecting that to come back. Okay, maybe that is possible. Maybe it's not. Well, I'm sure it is, but I'm not going to delve too much. So that's totally working. That's kind of the exact behavior that we wanted to get running. That was way quicker than I thought it was going to be. I'm not sure. Yeah, okay. No, not a hassle at all. That was just totally off topic. It works exactly as advertised. Let's do the smart thing and look at what else is on this documentation, because otherwise I'll come up with examples that are stupid. So this is all just describing what should happen. So when you submit the form above, Turbo extracts the matching. This is all much better worded version of what I was trying to describe earlier. So we don't have a new, because we're still using our import from YouTube. So we're not able to, well, we don't want to instigate the behavior of creating new videos on this side. So we don't have that behavior at the moment, but new underscore is the way it looks like you would have like a form that was like add a new video. You could add that at the bottom or wherever you wanted. Frames can also lazily load their contents in addition to scoping navigation. To lazily load a frame, add a source attribute whose value is the URL to be automatically loaded. As with scope navigation, Turbo finds and extracts the matching frame from the resulting response and swaps its content into place. So, okay, so that's like you want to just have a page that loads really quickly, but you don't care about some of the content being present. You could just, like we could do that for the videos bit, I guess, because presumably you can nest these frames, so we could have the page load and then the videos could load in separately, I guess. This may sound a lot like old school frames or even iframes, but they're part of the DOM. I'm not going in quite the detail because I'm looking for the next bit of behavior we could try. Vision caching, parallel. Oh, these are all the bonuses. Yep, cool. Turbo streams. Okay, so this I think is this notion of stuff coming back from the model and from the server, sorry. This is the stream stuff. Okay, so Turbo Streams lets us change any part of the page in response to updates sent over a WebSocket connection or other transport. I think an inbox that automatically updates when a new email arrives. I think inbox is from the email thing that these guys run. Turbo Streams introduces Turbo Stream. Okay, how long? Where are we up to on the stream? Okay, I can't grasp the difference between turbo and cable ready and action cable flow, which is actually dependency for stimulus reflex. To be honest, cable ready works much smoother and faster in my case. Okay, so I mean, I'm kind of interested in that. So this is presumably the cable ready stuff. Is that just for the turbo stream aspect of it, rather, or does that also cover this turbo frame stuff as well? Because my understanding of the stimulus reflex stuff was that it was for like the events happening on the server and then updating the UI. I'm assuming it probably did do this swapping out of frames and stuff. I hadn't got there yet. So I'm not sure how similar these are. So TMT writes, I can't grasp the difference between turbo and cable ready and action cable flow, which is actual dependency for stimulus reflex. To be honest, cable ready works much smoother and faster. So cable ready, I think, is another third-party tool. So I think they're, in my mind, as I understand it, they're all separate. So turbo, cable ready, action cable, which is, I think, part of Rails. I think action cable is the only one of those that's built in. Then stimulus reflex. And cable ready works smoother. So let's take a look. So these are alternatives to this thing. So let's say cable ready Rails. Cable ready. So I've heard of this. I've kind of heard of this. Okay, cool. So cable ready completes the action cable story. That's a good copywriting. When you install stimulus, it adds cable ready dependency. Okay, so it is part of stimulus. Okay, and expands the utility of WebSockets in your Rails app. Cable ready helps you create real-time music by making it simple to trigger client-side DOM changes from server-side Ruby, which is what these turbo streams. That is a really succinct way of saying what I think that. Now completely lost the docs here. Turbo streams, I think, is doing. It establishes a standard for interacting with the client via action capable WebSockets. No need for custom JavaScript. Cool. Okay, so same idea, and then you can go and look at the docs. Okay, so I have seen people saying that there are similarities here. I just, because I haven't worked with any of these before, I'm a little bit on the a little bit blind to anything that we might be missing from using one over the other. Action cable is part of Rails, yet with action cable and cable ready, you set up broadcast and stream, and then stimulate reflex updates all in real time with DOM changes. Right, okay, but it certainly seems like Turbo Streams is looking to take that away. Perhaps you could still use the cable ready part. My phone is ringing from my girlfriend, which means I have to answer this. I will be right back in 2 seconds. I'm really sorry about this. Hello, sorry about that. Mild emergency call to look up the age of an animal. Long story. Okay, cool. So, okay, amazing. Action Cable is part of Rails with Action Cable and Cable Ready. You set up broadcast and stream, and then Stimulus Reflex updates. Well, yep. So with the dump changes, you can make real-time chats, real-time posts, and stuff. Much more easier than Turbo. Oh, okay. So is it a case that there's two different solutions to the same kind of problem? Okay. So I think that because we're at like around 90 minutes, I think that's kind of enough that people can handle of me babbling on. What we might do then is just to carry this on is I might invent a reason to do the stream stuff, and then we could have both sets of behavior. So every time I am reminded, I'm guessing we can add in a little cancel button there. Like if we just on our form put in just a link to cancel, and then that could go to the wherever it goes when you finished this one there. And then if we refresh that, will that just let us cancel? Oh, I'm really sold on this already. Like I know like that's pretty cool. And if your responses are super quick, it would be like a bit of magic. Plus you could cache them. Yeah, okay, I'm kind of sold. Okay, what we might do then is we could put in next week, what we could do is add in like a fake, well, not fake, but like a fairly contrived example of like why we would need something to update on these. So like number of views or like likes, I guess would be an easy one to do, because then we could just add a quick integer field like to each of these. But then we could go on to just look at this stream side of things, because I'm interested in that. I'm also interested in like the experience, like I added Redis to my the gem and stuff. Like I haven't really used that as part of this yet at all. Haven't set up any kind of anything for that locally. So I'll be interested to see if that's now just like a literal click and go. Maybe it is, considering how easy this has been. Yeah, let's do that next week. We'll go into turbo streams, and then we will have turbo drives and turbo. No, we'll have turbo drive and turbo frames and turbo streams running, and we will be fully turboed up. Let me just wrap up. I think we've got everything now. I'll commit everything over. Cool. So thank you so much to everyone. Oh, people are still posting with broadcast. If one user updates the title, it should auto with everyone on the page open. Yeah, I think that should hopefully happen with both. Well, let's do that with next week. We'll see if we can get those numbers to appear for everyone, so everyone's got like a real time version. Because we have, we did do the work for our app previously to have it so that a user belongs to an organization has many sites which have many channels. So I think we've already done that work, and all we check is that we have the user belonging to that organization. So I think we already did all of that work. So now we can kind of have that come to fruition. We'll create a bunch of user accounts, add them to the same organization, let them access the channel, and then we can see if those counts update for everyone. So we'll do that next week. That'd be great. And then I think we'll go back to finish our the work that we had actually done before I diverted us by being interested in Hotwire, to kind of do our version control, not version control, but like having the versions of the videos in YouTube and having the versions of the video information in the app, and how we can keep those in line, because I think that's interesting as well. And how you could maybe revert back to the YouTube one. And the other thing that we wanted to touch on as part of that is this concept of getting an event or a webhook back from YouTube. So maybe we update a title in YouTube. How do we tell our app that? How do we respond to it? How are we going to store that? And having these two representations of the same video kind of live in sync with each other. And, maybe that could be a good example of turbo streams. Maybe when someone makes a change on YouTube, we receive the webhook, and then we broadcast a change has been made, and maybe we show a little badge to say, new YouTube version available or something. I don't know. I'm coming up with this. Thank you so much to everyone who has helped massively in the chat today. This went way faster with you. I would have been lost a bunch of times. Feel free to post a comment or anything in this if there's anything you want to look at in the future. I do try and reply to stuff. Thank you to everyone who's commented already recently. And I will, again, endeavor to maybe do a homework edition during the week. I will try. It hasn't been happening recently. It's been hugely busy at work. But if not, I will see you same time next week, 10:30 a.m. UK time, and we will do some more Ruby on Rails live streaming. Have a great weekend, everyone, and I will see you all hopefully next week. You absolutely can. So, okay, last comment, because the chat is going to stick around. I'm cutting along with you. I'm like 4 episodes behind, so making notes. Can I share it with you somewhere? If you, I'm at, there's Sunday Club or at Mac Shelley. I will put my personal Twitter and stuff in the description of this channel. It should probably be in all of them, but I keep forgetting. And feel free to send me stuff over. But you're free to share anything you like. And if you would rather do it publicly, just drop it in the comments below. In the for the video, and I get a little notification thing, so I'll see all of them. So just drop it that way. But you can find me. I'm around. All right, I'm gonna head off. Have a great week, everyone, and I will see you next week.